Hey, it's Chad with Drawn and Cornered. It is August 30th, 2021 on a Monday. And here's the news that we're going to be going through. So over the weekend, we had reports that the administration, the Biden administration, had gone after a couple of ISIS-K terrorists with drone strikes, had been successful with those. Two high-value targets were killed. It is great if all of this is true, which again, it's difficult for me to say that it isn't true. It's a report by the DoD, Defense Department, all came out with this. So let's say it's true. First off, great. It's fantastic. It's good that they're attacking and going back after these folks. The downside is why wasn't this happening earlier, and why aren't we seeing a lot more of it? And does drone strikes occurring there still keep us engaged in a war, or is this just taking place while we get people evacuated? The broader question is, does this help us get everybody evacuated? Now, a couple of changes over the weekend. Also, it appears though that 31st deadline is going to occur without getting all Americans and Afghan allies evacuated. They're going to be left behind if the 31st is a hard line. Now, there's also been something like 97 countries, including the US, have put weight on the Taliban to say, hey, we're going to be doing evacuations after the 31st. Apparently, the Taliban agreed to this. Also, said they're going to continue to provide security where that remains to be seen. Now, there are reports about what the U.S. wants to do, and there are reports about what is actually happening on the ground. Now, the reports on the ground say that Taliban is refusing to allow certain people through, especially when it comes to the Afghans, not as much on the American military, but that the U.S. forces, or the U.S. specifically, the administration, the people that are running the airport or running the gates at the airport, have been turning back Americans because of the threat level outside the airport. Now, exactly where that line is drawn and who's making that call and what's going on there is difficult to know, because again, it's a very dynamic environment. But Americans are being turned away from the airport. And if evacuations can't occur while the threat level is high, but the threat level continues to get high as the date approaches, you see where the issue is here, right? Like maybe we just we're ever able to get people out. And one of the stories that came out over the weekend that is just incredible, but highlights how badly Biden has been bungling this withdrawal, is a whole squad of former special forces went out into Afghanistan on their own and was privately shepherding folks back to get evacuated. And they got something like 500 people out, 500 Afghan allies and Americans out. Initially, this was all created so that a couple of guys that were in special forces could grab an Afghan special forces person that they had worked with, that they had trained with, that was running into death threats from the Taliban. So they got him out and then just started doing more and more and more of these missions to get people out. So this is the issue. The capability is there. We could have been doing the same thing that the French and the UK were doing by going out into the city and grabbing the people that we wanted and bringing them back and getting them out. But for some reason, the administration is not willing to do this. And this is where the speculation starts coming in. So like, why are they unwilling to do this? Why are they unwilling to put people into the country specifically to get Americans and Afghan allies out, knowing full well that the moment that we leave, their lives become far, far more likely to be lost? Why weren't we making those aggressive steps? And ultimately, it kind of seems like the Joe Biden administration, or Joe Biden himself, is unwilling to make the hard choice about doing the difficult things in order to secure American passage. And if that's true, we have to look at the calculus that comes to the political decision here. Okay, like, do you not want to lose troops and lives doing the aggressive thing? Okay, that's fine. That is a step you can take. But the trade-off to that is you're losing innocent American civilian lives and Afghan lives. But will the cover be that, well, we're not specifically responsible for those deaths because we're not the ones who put them in there? I think that's what's being said. And that all kind of got flipped on its head last week when the people that were there just to secure and keep everybody safe and not technically do anything the Taliban didn't want, ended up dying. That's the 13 service members, the Marines that were killed last week. All of a sudden, those are on Joe Biden's head. So the administration is having a real difficult time dealing with the fact that, like, no, we tried to do everything by the rules and we still got burned for it. And you're like, no, it's because you're paying attention to the wrong rules. You should be paying attention to the American rules and not the Taliban rules. The American rules say, hey, you get your people no matter what the cost is. You go get them. We never leave a man behind type of mentality. And that's what they failed to do. And again, Americans likely will never have a problem with you being aggressive going after Americans. What they will have a problem with is you demurring in front of a terrorist organization and also losing Americans. Like that is an unacceptable level. We will always applaud and follow up with strong, decisive action that maybe doesn't go the right way, as opposed to no action or inaction. Like that is always going to be a problem for us. That looks like weakness. Americans are not particularly fond of weakness, and that is why Joe Biden is suffering. Couple that with an administration that communication-wise is just terrible right now, has been bungling everything from Jump Street. And that was further highlighted over the weekend when a reporter stood up and was asking Jen Psaki and said, hey, we're getting reports now, months ago, the White House dog was reported to have bitten a Secret Service member, not really adjusting to White House life all that well, so they sent him back up to Connecticut or wherever he was from and to live on a big farm and whatever. No longer a part of the White House. Turns out, through examination, that those stories aren't accurate, that the White House dog had actually bitten like 7 Secret Service members and was aggressive and having all sorts of problems, but it was never reported. So this reporter brought up to Jen Psaki, said, hey, like, I get it. Dogs aren't the big news out there, but if you're unwilling to tell us the truth about these tiny things, these seemingly insignificant things, how are we to trust you when it comes to big things like Afghanistan? And Jen Psaki's answer is extraordinarily telling. And I'm going to have to paraphrase here because I can't play you live clips, but find the live clip. Because it's so condescending and so dismissive of his question, which I think is completely accurate. It's completely legitimate. It is a good question. And she initially starts with like, oh, I'm so happy that you're very concerned about the dog and you're keeping that in the news cycle. And I don't think that's not far off from what she actually was saying. And then she continues to answer that, like, well, the dog is doing well and was taken up there, completely disregarding the actual question and the tone and substance of what he was asking. And then closes out with, like, again, we're so happy that your concern for the dog is that high. Just utter a condescension and pushing away the press as though the questions they ask are completely ridiculous and uncalled for and unwarranted, and there couldn't possibly be a reason for distrust of this administration, though they have been lying consistently to us over the past 2 weeks. It would have been the sort of thing that if our press had been gutsy enough, and perhaps even against Trump, if that type of answer had come out of Trump or any of Trump's press secretaries when the whole press kind of uniformly hated them, I'm thinking you would have had everybody stand up and just walk out and been like, this is not worth our time anymore. If you're just going to be this blatantly disrespectful and dismissive and an utter liar, this is a waste of time for us as well. So we'll see you. And I kind of wish that that's what would have happened. What I hope happens today as we start entering back into the week's news cycle is that this report is heard more often, that more people are listening to this, more people are hearing that Jen Psaki is just flat out an enemy of the press. She does not treat them with respect. She does not treat them with any sort of kindness. She does not treat them even with the baseline of allowing them to have substance to the answers for their questions. It's absurd. It should be unacceptable. The other thing that's happening is we've got Hurricane Ida hitting the South Coast. It looks like it's being pretty awful. It's going after New Orleans, so there's images of Katrina flying through everybody's heads. So far, it doesn't seem like it's anywhere near that bad, but it's ugliness. It's pretty bad. It's also shut down gas production and pipelines around the country, so it's possible that we get a gas squeeze coming up here, which is only going to push further the idea that Biden has shut down the gas pipeline coming from Canada and other energy things for a green element, right? Which again isn't necessarily bad, but we have today issues as opposed to future consequences, and those today issues could become more impactful if those gas pipelines are shut down and people are struggling to get the fuel they need to go to work or to take care of their kids or whatever. That's going to be a problem. That could be something that we see further this week. Sticking with all the news, we are holding tight. We are keeping all this news going on a daily basis. If you like this sort of thing, subscribe down below. If you have any comments, want to tell me how awful it is, how great it is, comment down below as well. If there's any specifically you want to hear about or our take on, comment down below. Otherwise, we will be back tomorrow with more. Thank you very much. This is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. Have a good day.